All right, we are going to do a little processing together and connect and talk a little bit about clarity for the new year. So, in 2023, I would say the biggest thing I focused on that was most useful to me was the subject of clarity. It's kind of a easy one to overlook because there are so many options and there are so many things you can focus on and so many things we can do even within a particular context. Like, okay, let's say I'm going to do EFT, or I'm going to be an EFT facilitator, or I'm going to, like, quote unquote, work on myself, or this is the year I get my act together, or work on my fitness, all these types of things. But clarity, to me, the more I really focused on it, was a much more specific sense of what am I actually trying to do with my life, and in a sort of more meaningful way, like what matters to me, what's important to me, when do I feel the most impact for myself, when do I feel like I'm doing the most good, when do I feel the most connected, and then what sort of activities can kind of stem or grow from that feeling place. So focusing first on, okay, those emotional elements. Okay, where do I feel the best? What are the types of feelings? What are the general areas or qualities of emotion that really resonate with me? So as a jazz musician, when the music's really good, but not just quote unquote good music, but when do I feel the best? What types of players, what types of situations, what types of contexts really mean the most to me, and where I really feel that extra level of connection and that this matters. And then I can kind of clarify, okay, I want more of that. I want more of this type of experience in this type of direction. So, with that in mind, it's a very different energy than anytime I would set an intention like, I'm going to play X number of gigs this year, or I'm just going to make X number of dollars this year. Because I've done that, I've had that work, but it's not always that interesting, actually. I can remember, like, oh, cool, there's the number. I played that many gigs this month. But what were they? How run down was I physically? And did I really feel all that amazing looking at the number? It was encouraging to see that such a thing was possible, but it wasn't necessarily super inspiring to just see that number. It didn't mean anything. Just kind of like when you hear about people who get a certain amount of money after a certain level, seeing a larger number doesn't inherently make you feel all warm and fuzzy and connected and inspired in any particular deep way. It's just a number. So what I thought would be interesting is, I do this a lot, but clarifying this more and more, is to think about anything that you might have sort of set as a goal for the new year. Maybe the more cliche ones, if it's a dollar amount, if it's I intend to get my health together in a specific way, like a weight number, or I'm just going to do something X number of times a day or X number of times per week, and see if we can kind of trace that backwards and go from, instead of just the specific physical activity or action, to, okay, let's get a little more broad for a second and think about, okay, why does a particular goal or number matter to me? What's behind that? And that can be an interesting exploration. So let's try it together. And feel free to put anything in the chat if you have a particular goal or particular feeling or thought about this direction and what's coming up for you. We can explore it a little more specifically if anything comes up for anyone in a specific way. But so let's take, for example, this YouTube channel, right? I started a YouTube channel a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half, I forget. But I could say something like, I want 10,000 subscribers next year. And then what my mind will do is look at ways to just quote unquote get subscribers. There's a lot of ways you can do that. I could probably pay for that and have 10,000 subscribers in a couple months. What would that really matter if they're not people that I resonate with, if it's not the content that matters most to me and makes me feel most interested and is most likely to attract the people that I want to connect with and spend more time with, right? It's just a number. Why do I want a YouTube channel in the first place? Right? All of these different types of questions. So forgetting the number, forgetting an abstract, sometimes vanity metric, like I want X number of dollars or X number of subscribers, and I'm going to think about whatever that goal is and see if you can find some emotional connection to why that matters to you at all. So you can close your eyes if you'd like, and just let whatever comes to your mind first as a goal be your guidepost to what's a bigger either meaning or emotion behind that. So if I start, for example, with YouTube or creating material about EFT or emotional inner work online, it's, well, I actually really am fascinated by the art form of it. I love talking about it with other people who are interested. And when I'm doing this work on myself or with coaches like Nico, who left in the comment, she's a really good one who I had a really good session with, that feels like it changes my life. And it's a very kind of profound experience. And that's the home base, right? I want that. And I want to share that and connect with others who are interested in that. If I return to that, that is something I can viscerally feel within me. There is a core love behind it. So if you explore that in your own way, is there a core love or a core sense of interest, passion, excitement, even if it's somewhat nebulous and ethereal, just that there is a sense of meaning that you can trace that goal or objective to. And then you can notice if you feel any memories in your body, like excitement when you were a kid, or excitement the first time you came across something, or maybe the way it felt in your body, if you're looking to get back or into a particular fitness type of routine, for example. There's some seed of something that's actually active, that's living within your body. So seeing if you can connect to that. And if you can't, or there's resistance to that, definitely let me know about that, because that's a direction we can explore. So again, just letting any type of goal or objective come to mind, even if it seems random, just see what your mind gives you and see if you can trace it back to, is there some core sense of meaning or a memory of something being valuable, interesting, exciting? And see if you can connect with that feeling for a bit. This feeling or this core drive, this core sense of meaning or purpose or connection, I believe is the building block that can lead you down the correct road or the best road for you to then get more specific. As an experiment, leave that behind if you can, or just sort of put that aside, and let's just ask our minds for, hey, what do I want to accomplish this year? And you might notice that that can have a very different quality to it. If we just ask our minds, or just ask our sort of cultural programming, what do I want to achieve or do or have? For me, it throws me all sorts of things. Some of them are vanity. Some of them might have a real heart and soul behind them. Others are dollar amounts, money amounts, number of gigs, all those types of things, right? There can be a really long list. And from that is where we can get into, okay, I need to set all types of goals and do all sorts of processes. Okay, I need to visualize this dollar amount. I need to visualize this number of clients, this number of subscribers on my YouTube channel. And now it's more of a to-do list. And it's more of being in repair mode of, okay, I have to fix these things about myself, and what do I have to heal in order to get 10,000 subscribers, and why am I not healed enough yet to make, $75,000 this year? And it really can turn back into that treadmill. Right? And so let yourself feel those two distinctions if you're able. Right? Just sort of asking your mind for goals. What goals, quote unquote, do I want to set this year? Versus, okay, let me take something that came to mind and trace it back, looking within me for a feeling, a memory, a sensation of how this truly matters to me, of how it feels or felt so connected the first time I taught that class, or the first time I had that experience doing meditation or emotional work, and I felt a shift in my body or a shift in my perspective. And so connecting more and more to that sense as best you can, I like to ask questions such as, what does that energy or that feeling of inspiration, what does that look like when it's put into some sort of activity or experience in my life? What things or what situations could exist, whether they've already happened or they don't really exist yet, but that would be conducive to having more and more of that meaningful, impactful emotion or experience quality. Now, as I do that, I start getting a little smile because I start, instead of just thinking of numbers of gigs, for example, I'm getting a little picture of last night. I played for New Year's Eve, and it was actually really good. It was a really kind of inspiring gig. But I'm feeling what it felt like to be there, and I can see a pretty large number of people being absolutely silent, listening, and that's a pretty powerful experience. So as I feel that, it's like, oh yes, that's what it feels like to be on stage, and I can sort of see the people. I can feel the other musicians next to me. More of that, please. I can sort of feel that in a first person sense. My mind is sort of sometimes abstractly just showing me different performance type situations. I'm thinking of a concert hall I played in Mexico this year, where there was just an amazing energy with the people, and it's all kind of coming in this way that's very experience based, and the emotional quality is predominant. Again, I'm going to keep contrasting that with, I just want to play a bunch of gigs this year, or I want to have X number of dollars, and I'm trying to picture my calendar or trying to picture, a bank account. If it works, if that generates emotion for you, great. But for me, this is so different than that. And what I have found is that focusing on the emotional experience of it can lead to much more interesting places than I might even be able to imagine or try to preconceive. So just seeing if that's bringing up anything for you. If you're able to connect to anything of the sort, let me know. And so taking that to a step further is where I then really enjoy some of the more practical kind of exercises and applications. So once there is some sort of connection to a meaning or a vision or a feeling of energy, like, yeah, this is emotionally inspiring or connecting to me on some level. The sixth sense, what is it? You mean the, I'm thinking of the movie for some reason, that's what's coming to mind. But yeah, let me know, that's very interesting. Once I connect to that, it is then, like I said, where I can start asking, what does that look like practically in my life, or what is a sort of physical manifestation of that sense of connection and emotion? So I might see myself on stage, as was happening for me there. And then that can be dissected a little bit into, okay, yeah, what would need to happen or what would need to be in place in my life to facilitate more of that? What would my priorities need to be in order to have some more of that in my life? So I would obviously be more inspired to actually practice my instrument. And I would also have a lot more clarity at times of, okay, well, if that's the type of performing I want to do, or if those are some of the specific musicians I want to play with more, there's going to be different actions that I take than if, for example, if I want to make a lot of money this year or I need to performing. And sometimes the most direct pathway is like, okay, I want to play a lot of corporate gigs or I want to play a lot of private events and do that and play with great musicians and with good companies and just have a bunch of those on my calendar. And that could feel amazing to have that. Like, okay, cool. I needed this extra change this year and this was a clear pathway for me to do it. The actions from that are going to be a little different. You're going to be structuring a little bit. Okay, how could I have more of those? What would be the ways to get in contact or get my name on more of those lists? And then your mind can have a sense of clarity. Okay, I intend to play more of these types of high paying gigs or events with this company or with these people. What needs to happen to facilitate more of that? So if I want to work with more of a particular type of person, okay, what types of videos am I going to be making? What kind of subjects am I going to be talking about? That's for me where the clarity starts to come in. Because even there's already a certain amount of clarity in, okay, here is a YouTube channel that's about emotional work. That's a lot more clarity than just, hey, this is just Evan's YouTube channel, just talking about whatever he feels like today. You're certainly allowed to do that, but there's a different level of clarity here. But then to take that a step further is, okay, what are some of the processes or techniques I use? Who are some of the people or the type of person that I feel like I might resonate with or I might be able to speak to a little bit more effectively? And then what would I have to offer? So this is not, for example, like a channel that teaches EFT tapping to children who have never heard of it before. Talking about issues of young adults. But you can imagine such a channel, and it could be a very great channel. that level of clarity now is going to be an organizing principle. And if that's inspiring to you, oh, it would be really cool to, have these workshops where I could teach tapping or teach meditation to a bunch of young adults. If that's inspiring, then yeah, you've got now a very much clearer foundation from which to say, okay, these are the types of videos that I would create. This would be sort of the languaging, the messaging, and this would be a way to kind of grow that and develop that. A lot of the stuff I talk about, and I thought about it and kind of felt into it, is it's a lot of it's people have been around the block a minute. A lot of the things that I've gotten good feedback from, they're saying like, yeah, I've tried this, I've tried that, or these are the places I got stuck with tapping, or I was just trying to tap to get rid of things, or I'm hitting a particular sticking point, or I'm listening to teacher ABC talk about these sort of advanced concepts and it's confusing me. It's like, okay, I like talking about that stuff. That seems to be where there's some resonance. Now I have so much more clarity. Okay, this is who I'm talking to. This is why. And this is where we can go further. So again, starting with some sense of connection, meaning, inspiration. I really love whatever movie or whatever book, right? And if you are an author, like Brock in the comments, okay, just using that as an example because it's a different one. Right? If you say, because I'm sure there's some writers or inspiring writers or creators of some type listening. Okay, well, why am I drawn to this particular medium or art form? Surely there's some book you read or an experience of watching a certain movie or animation or something that just was like, oh, this is so cool. This is so interesting. I want that. I like being in the universe of that. How cool would it be? And I was very deliberate, right? How cool would it be to get to know Brad Yates and get to do something with him? Right? I wrote that down. Right? I got to know him, like I sent him messages. I sought out ways to work with him. But that's a place of clarity. Right? So who's an author you would love to meet? Who is a creator in your space you would love to connect with? With that as a starting point, it's like, wow, wouldn't that be cool? Okay, well, what would need to be in place? And the nice thing about that is it's kind of filtered through your own life, right? What would need to be in place in my life? And sometimes it's quite shocking when you ask these types of questions to realize there can be some pretty low-hanging fruit at times that we just haven't even addressed because we're thinking in such broad terms, or like what we don't have and what's not available, or there's too many options, right? It's like, okay, well, it would be so cool to have a YouTube channel talking about emotional work. Like, oh, well, do I have a camera? Do I have a microphone? Because that's pretty much all it takes. What topics would I like to talk about? Okay. Or if there's someone you want to meet, well, have I ever sent them a message? Have I ever even signed up for one of their courses? Because a lot of times you sign up for someone's program and you have a way that you can possibly send them an email. Or have you ever sent that author or movie creator or whatever, like a fan letter, or just sent them a message saying, I really love your work? Because I've done that, and sometimes you actually get a response, and then that person knows who you are. But that's a level of clarity. Oh, that person, that direction, that group. Wouldn't it be so cool to play with so and so musician? Well, go to their gigs, right? Or listen to them online and contact them. Tell them what you loved about their last album. See if there's a way to find out what what you might need to work on, or learn about them, learn about the path. What are the steps I need to take? What are the things I was doing or have been doing or others are doing that are not working? So to keep making this practical, right? I'm emphasizing this because it made the biggest difference for me in 2023. I leaned more into EFT because I just found it to be very effective and very not only powerful, but it can be demonstrated. It lends itself to video. I can make videos of myself tapping that can serve in some way, and they can stay there and people can tap along with them. And I do that with some meditations and stuff too, as do some of the other folks here. But a clarity about that. Okay, that's what I do. I'll do one of those a week. And then what? What would be the next step? What are people responding to? What are they not responding to? Now there's something that's alive. It's not, well, next month maybe I'll start a YouTube, and then I'll start an Instagram, and then I'll try to do this, but maybe I could go try to do live workshops, or maybe I should. It's too much. You end up doing nothing, or you just throw things at the wall. So clarity just simplifies things so much, right? But clarity without a sense of connection or impact on a personal level, it just falls flat to me. It's clear because I understand the link between what I'm doing and how it can make me feel, or these great experiences, or these connections, or these memories, or these emotions, that I know that doing X, Y, and Z consistently, there's some direct pathway. Even if it's, meditate every day. Well, why? Surely there's some experience you had that you can relate to and say, oh, more of that. If meditate every day is purely just some sort of disciplinary thing you're trying to impose on yourself, you'll notice it will fall flat. It lacks the emotional aspect. It's clear in that it's sort of an arbitrary goal you may have set, but it's not necessarily clear in that there is a clear pathway of, this is what I'm going for, this is the experience, these are the emotions or impact I want to have more of in my life. And it's clear to me that doing X, Y, or Z is a gateway to that. And that the more I do, the more I connect to it, the more I can refine it, the more I will get to experience those things I want to experience or be part of, or how they might lead in a particular direction. And then you get to enjoy refining it. Those levels of clarity. And the last thing I'll say about it, unless anyone has any questions, comments, is that it's really, I found the biggest distinction for me, and I'm going to talk more about this, I think, this year for myself to flush it out, and hopefully others find it useful. Again, it's all just been about what's made the most difference for me and working with other people. Is the more I look at it like a process of self-discovery, the more effective it is. I have started to feel like it's been a bit of a disservice and can be very overwhelming and even debilitating in some ways. This sort of notion that you can just have or be or do or create literally anything you want if you just sort of choose from the catalog and think about it. I don't find that particularly true or helpful, in the sense of, okay, I, Evan, could literally, like, if I just wanted to be a basketball player, I could just visualize that and just do the right things, and that should happen because it's all just sort of a blank slate. And it's all just whatever my ego or mind happens to think would be cool or want on a particular day. Unless you're really, really clear or advanced or something, your mind will run amok. And different parts of you that want different things, the part of me that wanted to be cool in high school and wasn't, is going to want some image, some certain thing. And if it's like, oh, okay, well, I can just have that if I visualize it and focus on it, I'm going to be pulled in all sorts of different directions. And that has happened to me more than once. Right? But, well, who am I really? What am I really about? Being a bass player is something that's just kind of, I don't know why I am that, but I can play quarter notes for hours a day. Right? I guarantee a lot of you would get bored walking bass lines night after night and would get physically drained and not find it particularly inspiring holding that thing and dealing with your shoulder and all the yoga and stuff you have to like. It's not for everyone. It's for me. It's a very specific thing to discover that. The actual day-to-day reality of being that is specific, right? Like, I might think it would be cool to have a book out, but I'm not a writer. I'm not an author. That's not who I am. I may discipline myself to do that at some point as a particular strategy, or I think it would be good for me to have. But in my heart, I'm not someone who gets up and thinks about writing and looks at different authors and like is super well versed in different books, right? I can't make myself be that. And I don't believe there's any amount of visualizing. And why would I need to or want to be anything other than what I am? I am Evan, the guy who's interested in tapping and emotional work and meditation and playing the bass. And mostly in the jazz world. That's who I am. I discovered that. Right? I saw that music and that resonated with me in a way that other things didn't. Or there might be music, Brazilian music might be my favorite music in the world, and I love when I get to play it, especially when I get to play with, the Brazilians in New York. It's like, this is the greatest thing in the world. That's a specific thing to me. It's different than Afro-Cuban music. I can't just, even within being a bass player, right? I can't just be everything or anything. No one is. Everyone has their kind of special sauce or their place where they particularly shine. Literally every musician is like that, even the greatest that ever lived. And if you get the fortune of playing with different people, you'll hear, yeah, as great, even they always sound amazing, but there's places where you can tell that's not their bread and butter. They're a little out of their element. And then you can hear them in their element, and it's the greatest thing you've ever heard, and no one else can do that. I think it's interesting to find that and discover that about ourselves. What do you think? I'm curious. I also would make the argument that any claims that people make in this kind of space should be able to be demonstrated. If someone's like, no, I can do literally anything I decide, well, do it, right? Show us. If a teacher is teaching, like, yeah, you can literally visualize anything and create it, well, do it. Right? Don't, if you're a YouTube teacher and you're saying, well, you can visualize anything you want and have it, have 1 million subscribers. You should be able to do that if you're teaching that. And so I don't think life works like that. Not in that way where you can just egoically decide I want this and that and just make it. I think that it's a process of self-discovery. What matters to me? And I do think the great news is whatever matters most to you and whatever is going to actually make you the happiest and most fulfilled beyond what you possibly can imagine, you can have. Right? That's the better news to me. Who cares if I could visualize a Ferrari and have it if it really wouldn't do much for me, and after 6 months I'd be bored with it and just be trying to manifest something else. Finding what resonates with you, using that as a place to connect to yourself, connect to your own sense of deeper meaning, value, purpose. Yeah, this really matters to me. This means something to me. Now, let me explore that and feel into where I can have more of that in my life. The types of people I would want to be connecting with or working with, maybe even specific people. And letting that kind of communicate to you, okay, what would I need to do? And you'll notice it has a feeling quality to it, right? It's not necessarily so stiff. So for me to do more emotional work with people, there's a quality to that. And yes, I would need to create more things. I would need to speak about it more. But it's another part of me that presents itself. Oh, that means you have to work on this for 3 hours a day, every day, 365 days. That's some mind stuff. But the energy behind it, to have more of that, because when you can connect to it, it's fluid. One day might be a little different than the next, but there's going to be some level of clarity and some organization. So I hope that helps. I hope you found that useful in some way. Like I said, I'll hang out for another second in case anyone has any questions, comments, or wants to expand on this conversation a little bit. Obviously, I will be making videos as I have been and trying to get better at that because it's fun and it yields a result, and it's a sense of clarity for me. And I think the more clear I get, hopefully the better the content is, and hopefully the more guidance I kind of get on where to go and what to do. So sometimes, like today, they're just fun ideas, things for the new year. All right, thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. I look forward to connecting with you more and seeing more of what you come up with and what you create and do this year. And keep in touch during it, because I think it's an ongoing process, an ongoing conversation. And use the tools, use the emotional work tools, tapping, meditating, breathing, feeling into what matters to you, what you want to be experiencing more of, and kind of following your heart, your mind, your guidance from that place of what do I want to do and create and feel. And I think we will be led in the right direction. So looking forward to connecting with you soon. All right, take care.